Good morning and welcome to AdMob and Firebase. My name is Ed Wang, and I'm a product manager on the AdMob team.
And I'm Milo, a product manager on Google Analytics for Firebase. On Wednesday, Shooter and Sissy announced the new AdMob and the latest updates to Google Analytics for Firebase. We're here to take that a step further and show you what the AdMob Firebase integration will add to your developer toolset. If you haven't heard, Google Analytics for Firebase is the new name of Firebase Analytics. But our mission remains the same. We're here to help mobile teams develop better apps and help you grow successful businesses. A big part of growing a successful business is increasing your earnings. Google Analytics for Firebase and AdMob are working together to help you do just that.
We know from developers that the problem these days isn't finding ads to use. In fact, many of you are probably overwhelmed by the number of options you have to choose from. The challenge is knowing what types of ads to use. Where do you put them? How often do you show them? And to make things even more complicated, we know that putting ads into your app isn't the only decision you're making around monetization. In-app purchases, pay-per downloads, subscriptions, e-commerce, these are all viable options. We know that you're expected to make money from multiple business models because you're expected to generate revenue from every opportunity you have. Every year, we track the top strategies used by developers like yourself. And every year, we see the overlap between these strategies get bigger and bigger. You're not using just one, but sometimes two or even three monetization strategies. We're calling this the shift towards hybrid monetization. But whether you're using one or three streams of revenue, we want to help you earn more. AdMob has helped over 1 million apps monetize with in-app advertising, and that's across both iOS and Android. But even so, our largest publishers tell us that developing a data-driven monetization solution is still too hard.
And so we're really excited to announce a rich integration between AdMob and Firebase. We believe this integration will eliminate a lot of the guesswork you may have had and make you feel confident in the monetization choices you make. If you're already using analytics inside Firebase, you know that even by itself, it can be an incredibly powerful tool, giving you insights into how your users are behaving inside your app. And then you use those insights to figure out how to effectively engage and grow your user base. But on our own, we couldn't give you visibility into the ads revenue. And this meant that if you are monetizing using both in-app purchase and ads revenue, you were only seeing part of the picture. You couldn't get answers to questions like, what's my lifetime value across in-app purchase and ad revenue? Or how do rewarded ads impact user engagement and ARPU, the average revenue per user? Or how does the revenue differ between my purchasers and my non-purchasers? And yet we know so many of you are trying to get answers to these very questions because they're absolutely critical to your business. Many of you have, in fact, told us that you're trying to log these events and parameters manually. So you're logging custom events, you're building spreadsheets, and even with all that effort, it's impossible to measure accurately on a per-user basis because you don't have that click-level revenue data that you need. That's a lot of extra effort for very little reward.
So what you told us was that you need granular data on your monetization strategy. And of course, you need it in a tool that's both simple to integrate and simple to use. Your needs are what inspired all of the features that we're going to be talking about today. The AdMob Firebase integration is not only the most accurate way to measure app monetization, it's also fully automated. So let me show you what you're going to get out of the box. If you caught the AdMob talk yesterday afternoon, you might have seen the brand new AdMob. We've taken everything that we've learned from you and rebuilt the front end so that you can spend less time learning about how to navigate our site and more time building the best ads experience for your users. One of the most noticeable changes that you'll see is the introduction of the App Overview Dashboard. This is a place where you can go every single day to check on your earnings and see how your app is performing. On the dashboard, there's 2 cards that are powered by the AdMob Firebase integration. And I'm going to show you how you can use them to improve your overall app business. I mentioned earlier that monetization strategies are becoming more and more complex with the shift towards hybrid monetization. And as that happens, it's getting harder and harder to track your overall earnings. We believe that if it's hard to measure, then it's even harder to optimize. So let me give you an example. If you're using in-app purchases, you're probably checking the Play Store and maybe iTunes. If you're using e-commerce, then you're pulling figures from your internal dashboards or maybe your databases. And let's not forget about all the mediation revenue that you have across all of your networks. Answering a basic question like how much money am I making shouldn't be this hard. The close integration with Firebase lets AdMob bring all of your revenue streams into the App Overview Dashboard. And the card to the right of me gives you a 360-degree view of how your app is performing at any given time. As soon as you integrate with Firebase, you'll be able to see your in-app purchase revenue and your e-commerce revenue instantly start to populate. That means no more opening a dozen browser windows and no more spreadsheets. AdMob is also displaying the most important user metrics right on your App Overview Dashboard. Today, we know that it's not enough just to track impressions, clicks, and revenue. Don't get me wrong, they're still important, but user value is only one part of your overall business. The monetization strategy that you choose is going to impact your user experience, whether you like it or not. This is why industry leaders are all tracking user growth, user engagement, and user retention. All of these metrics are available at a glance so that you can keep an eye on how changes to your monetization strategy end up impacting your user experience. And if you see a sharp drop, there's a full set of tools in the Firebase UI to help you debug and figure out what the issue is. So Mai is going to show you how all of this is working in our demo project, the Flooded app.
So Flooded is a puzzle game with about 17,000 monthly active users across Android and iOS. And this is our publicly available demo project, which makes it an awesome place to explore Firebase and check out all of our latest features. In fact, you could go there right now and look at the features we'll be showing you throughout the talk today. So as you know, if you didn't catch the Google Analytics for Firebase talk, I want to go over a few key analytics concepts so you get context for how AdMob and Firebase are working better together. What I'm going to do is go over the components that are now richer, and then I'll take time and dive more deeper so that you see how the integration is reflected in those components. Let's go to the live demo. All right. So here you see the home page, or our dashboard. And this is the place you go in analytics to see all of your key metrics at one easy glance. So there are basic user stats, business drivers, acquisition, retention metrics, basic user engagement stats, and then demographics data for your user base. Next is the Events tab, which is right next door. And this is where you go to see detailed reports on all of the events you're currently logging. So here's the event management table. And you see all of the events listed. And when you click on any of these, it takes you to the detailed report of that event. Next is the Audience tab. And this is one of the most popular features inside analytics. Here's a list of all the user segments that you've defined because they're important or interesting for you to track. And these are the same audiences that get sent to other parts of Firebase that you may be using, like notifications or remote config. Here's also the place where you want to configure a new audience that you can track moving forward. So last but not least, I want to highlight the Attribution tab. And here's where you get data on user acquisition campaigns, the associated lifetime value, So really any data around conversions, where they're coming from, and the revenue. So now that you've got context, let me tell you specifically what's more powerful with the AdMob Firebase integration. So as you remember me saying, people usually use Google Analytics or Firebase to track and analyze in-app events. And that goes for both the broad app performance metrics that I showed you earlier in the dashboard, and also when you're looking for a specific insight into your business, such as how much money you're making. So let's go to the dashboard, and let me show you what's new. So with AdMob and Firebase together, ARPU, the average revenue per user, and also lifetime value, now also include revenue. This makes them so much more complete and so much more valuable to you. Now you have data on how to optimize your acquisition campaigns, and you can set much better goals around total user value. There's also a new card on the dashboard around ad performance. So here, you have a quick glance at your ad performance metrics. So let's look at the event logging for the two new events that we're logging, which is ad click and ad impression. Again, these events you've told us you're logging or trying to log manually, but now they're logged automatically as soon as you link your AdMob and Firebase accounts. So let's look at one of the detail reports, and we'll click on ad click. And this report should look fairly familiar if you're already using analytics. It's the standard event detail report, but there's a new card here, and it has incredibly powerful data inside it. So there's impressions, clicks, estimated revenue, and a new metric around ad exposure, which is the time your ads were exposed inside the app. Here in this drop-down menu, you can see the data in different dimensions. So ad unit, which is the actual AdMob ad placement. Then there's screen. Ad format, which is basically the type, so like native, interstitial, banner, rewarded. And then ad source, which is the network where the ads are coming from. So let's look around a little and see what would be interesting to explore here. I'm going to choose to look at my revenue by screen. So I'm choosing screen name from the dropdown. And now I can compare how the ad performance varies by screen. So right away, I see there are two top performing screens that far outperform the others: main menu and skater menu. And when it comes to successful advertising, timing is everything. You want to place an ad at a time when there's a natural break in the content. Skater menu is the menu the users in this app see when they're just starting a level. So they're thinking about how to optimize their performance, and they want to choose like the right character to help them do that. Main menu, on the other hand, is the menu people go to after they finish every level. So when you look at the difference between the two, you see that main menu is only a third of the ad exposure time of skater menu, but yields roughly the same amount of revenue. We see this again when we compare main menu and level menu. So here you see the ad exposure time is roughly the same for the two. They're 13% for each screen. But when you look at the revenue, you see that level menu is 90% less than main menu. So what this tells me is maybe level menu isn't a great place to show ads, and maybe I should run some experiments to figure out a better one. You also see from this table that the two top screens, as I said, are main and skater. So when you're thinking about prioritizing your screens and what to do in your app, those are the places you want to go to when you want to refine and optimize your ad performance. So right now, this app is only using banner ads for both of those screens. Maybe you should think about using a new AdMob format, such as native. This is actually a perfect opportunity for this game because it's pretty stylized, and so native ads would blend much more seamlessly into the app. Something else you can do with the AdMob and Firebase integration is see how rewarded ads directly impact your business. So when it comes to rewarded ads, many of you are thinking about, do users really stay longer and play my game more? Or are they more or less likely to purchase? Because you can leverage custom audiences in Firebase, which tracks data for a group of users you're interested in, you can now get answers to those very questions. Creating an audience of users who've seen rewarded ads can help you see whether they spend more time playing your game and over time spend more money inside your app. And that'll help you see and understand whether there was any trade-off between IP and rewarded ads. Also, by leveraging the automatically created audience of purchasers, you can see things like whether a purchaser is clicking on the rewarded ads or whether they purchase irrespective. So there you go. I've demoed you some of the new and powerful features that we've built with this integration and some of the questions that you can now get the answers to. And now Ed's going to show you how one of our partners is using these new features successfully right now and how these new features are helping them grow their business. So let's go back to the slides.
Awesome. Thanks, Mai. So this is Bworks Games' latest game called Fungi's Den. And Bworks Games is a game studio. It's one of our largest partners in Japan. And they make mushroom-themed games. They're responsible for the hits like Mushroom Garden and Touch Detective. They recently launched Fungi's Den, and this is the game that we're going to be looking at today. Like many studios, Bworks has spent decades building games. And over that time, they've managed to build incredible instinct. They've relied on this experience to design both the gameplay as well as the monetization strategy for Fungi's Den. At AdMob, we believe that great games are born from great instinct. But we also know that when you combine intuition with robust analytics, you not only get better monetization opportunity, but you also get better game design. So Fungi's Den is a strategy game where you're trying to help mushroom men build a thriving underground city. It's got 41 levels of varying difficulty. And right now, Fungi's Den is using banner ads and in-app purchases to monetize. When we convinced them to use this integration, we set out to try and answer two questions. One, how does user behavior differ from level to level? And two, how does game design and ad monetization impact the user value? So let me show you how we can quickly get the answers to these questions. To start off, we can use the user properties functionality, which basically helps Firebase understand the game a little bit better. So here, we're creating a custom user property called current level. And we're going to increment that user property every time a user progresses to the next level. By tagging every user with the level user property, every Firebase event attached to that user automatically gets assigned to that level. We can then analyze all of the automatically collected Firebase signals by simply applying the user property to the standard Firebase reports that you all know and love. On the screen here, you'll see that there's just a single line of code. And that's all it takes to set a user property. Believe it or not, this one line of code is going to drive all of the analysis we're about to show you. It's incredibly simple, but incredibly powerful. It's going to let us analyze daily active users, churn, revenue, all across Fungi's Den's levels. So let's dive into the data. So the first thing that we really wanted to learn about was how users are distributed throughout this game. And one of our core hypotheses was that users were getting to the last level, level 41, and then running out of things to do and uninstalling the game. But it turns out that our intuition was completely off. Here, what this chart is showing is on the x-axis, there's 41 levels, and on the y-axis, it's daily active users. And the one thing that you'll notice right away is that the majority of Fungi's Den's users are already reached level 41. But remember, we're looking at daily active users. So that means that they're still coming back and playing the game on a daily basis. The retention rate for Fungi's Den is way higher than we expected. So what does this really mean for Bworks' monetization strategy? So good data should speak to you, right? And what this data is telling me is that users are clamoring for more content and more levels. But we all know that good levels take a lot of time to build. And so while these levels are getting built, Bworks can implement something called AdMob House Ads. House ads give developers the power to create advertisements for their own apps, like Mushroom Garden. Bworks can drive these extremely valuable users who are at level 41 into their other mushroom-related games. And when the levels are finally ready, they can use Firebase Cloud Messaging to send a push notification to these users, letting them know that the new content is ready to play in Fungi's Den. And you want to know the best part? House ads are entirely free. The next thing that we looked at was the uninstall rate broken down by level. And without knowing anything about this game, what you see is that the uninstall rate drops off pretty sharply at the beginning of the game and kind of levels off. So where we found that it's leveling off is level 8. And this is what we're calling the captivation point. This is the point where we think users are really becoming emotionally invested into this game. And they've really decided that they want to spend their time, right? We can also see that after the captivation point, users are still continuing to drop off. And what we learned was that Bworks had designed 7 super challenging levels into Fungi's Den. Now look what happens when we overlay those 7 levels onto this graph. We can see that at each of these challenge levels, we see little spikes of uninstall. And what this is telling us is that users are getting frustrated and uninstalling their app when they hit these challenge points. Things get even more interesting when we take these insights and we layer on in-app and ad revenue. So this is overall revenue here. And the blue bars represent in-app purchase revenue. The red bars represent banner revenue. And let me remind you that until now, you couldn't do this type of analysis anywhere. The reason why we can do it here is because we're able to take user properties, an analytics concept, and join that up with ads revenue, an AdMob concept. Connecting this data for Fungi's Den, we can see a couple of interesting patterns emerge. The first thing that we see is that there's very, very little in-app purchase spending before the captivation point, right? And this is a common phenomena for casual games. Users need to be emotionally invested into the game before they decide to spend their real money improving their city. So based on these insights, Bworks can actually design their game in order to get users to that captivation point faster. They can think about things like leveraging tutorials, social gameplay, gifting mechanics to strengthen retention. And the sooner that they can get that emotional buy-in from their users, the sooner they'll start to see that in-app purchase revenue flow in. When we go back and look at the graph, there's one other thing that I wanted to point out. So here you'll notice that there's some spikes in revenue. And when you overlay those challenging levels, you'll notice that the revenue actually has a really strong correlation to the level difficulty. So some of these users are taking the challenge in stride, right? They're spending more time and more money inside their app. But from the last chart, if you remember, we know that some of these users are also getting discouraged and uninstalling the game. So the question that we had was, how can Bworks really lower their churn while still maintaining and increasing their overall revenue? Well, Bworks can introduce something called rewarded ads. And rewarded ads are an opt-in ads experience whereby in exchange for watching an advertisement, a user gets a reward. Typically, the reward is some kind of in-game item that helps make gameplay a little bit easier. The most successful rewarded ads that we see at AdMob are the ones that help lower user churn without diminishing the value of existing in-app purchases. The key here is being able to target discouraged users and help get them to the next level before they uninstall and quit your game. Now, you can imagine being able to target some of these users who have spent a few days trying to beat a particularly hard level and then offering them the opportunity to watch a rewarded ad. And this is something that can actually be pretty easily designed by using Firebase custom audiences as well as Firebase remote config. And finally, the last piece of analysis that I want to show you. So what we're looking at here is banner click-through rate broken down by level. And I'm sure all of you have heard the term banner blindness before, right? This is a phenomena where users are subconsciously learning to ignore banner ad units they've seen before. This is something that we talk about a lot in industry, but until now, it's been pretty hard to collect the data. The reason is because ad units typically don't have any concept of how long a user has actually been inside the game. The AdMob Firebase integration changes all of that, right? Here, we can see that the click-through rate steadily declines over the 41 levels. And when you look at the data, you can actually see that between levels 1 and 41, there's a 50% drop in click-through rate. That means that the banner units you're using at level 41 are only half as effective as the banner units that you're using at level 1. This data does a great job at helping us visualize and quantify banner blindness. So what can Bworks do? Bworks is already thinking about various ways to increase ads diversity. And when they can ensure that their ad experience is both fresh and relevant, they can make sure that their ads are super efficient and their users are engaged. So they're thinking about introducing interstitial ads in between levels, or potentially incorporating native ads that fit really nicely into gameplay and look and feel like they're part of the underground city. And once they've implemented this new ad strategy, they can track all of the results right in Firebase. So this is only the beginning for Bworks. With this integration, they can now answer questions like, what kind of rewards should we give our users when they watch a rewarded video? And what are the best times to show advertisements? Are my rewarded videos spending more time and more money inside my ad? With these new insights in Firebase, Bworks can experiment with ad strategy and game design in ways that they just couldn't before. They've always had that intuition, but now they have the data to go along with it. Bworks is just one of the amazing partners that we've been using to test this integration. Some of our other publishers, like SenseSpark, have been using this integration to measure and manage customer LTV, so they can build better user acquisition strategies for their games. And with all of this data, the number of experiments that you can run are endless. We're confident that this integration is not only going to help you earn more, but also learn more about your game.
So now that you know how the AdMob Firebase integration can help you, let's talk about how to get started doing it. We designed this integration from the beginning to be automatic, seamless, and dead simple to use. Can you guess how long it took Bworks to start their first experiment? Can you believe it was just 1 hour? The team came up with the idea on a Friday at 4 p.m., and already by 5 p.m., they'd made the changes and submitted their app to the store. It really is that fast and easy, because Firebase does most of the work for you automatically. In fact, all the events we've shown you today are automatically generated when you link your AdMob and Firebase accounts. So if you're already using AdMob and Firebase, there are 2 steps to get started. First, update to the latest versions of the SDKs. And second, link your app to Firebase in the AdMob UI. As soon as you launch it, you'll see new data begin to populate. And that's it. You don't have to write a single line of code. In fact, if you've already recently updated your SDKs and your accounts are linked, you may be already seeing the ad click and ad impression reports. So before you all run off and do just that, I want to mention that we've really only scratched the surface of what this new integration can do for you. There's so much more to come, but now you have quick and easy access to the data you need for better monetization and better optimization. And we're working on deeper integrations to bring you even more insight for you to power these important business decisions. If you have any questions about this or anything we've talked about today, Please come see us at the Firebase Sandbox anytime. We want to meet you, talk to you, and brainstorm ideas on how you can take advantage of all the features we mentioned today.
So thank you again so much for coming out and being our partners in this incredibly exciting journey. We cannot wait to see all of the awesome things that you do with this integration. So go out, get the new SDKs, and let's build some awesome apps together. Thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of I/O.